It's a Nigerian name. It means bringer of joy. So I hope to bring you a little joy. Actually, I'm lying. I don't hope to bring you joy at all. I hope to bring you a bit of consternation. Because I don't know if any of you were watching Network on television on Saturday night. On Network, Peter Finch, I believe it is, became a messiah. He became a messianic figure on the television. And it suddenly occurred to me that there seem to be messiahs of all sorts of races except black. And I thought, well, why the hell not? So I'm going to be your black messiah. Here's my first poem. It's called Losing My Religion. Jesus Christ was very nice, but begging for mercy on my knees was just not for me. I felt no need to apologize when I'd been awoken in a world already filled with lies. Virgin Mary seemed so contrary. She'd had no right to choose. That angel Gabriel just dropped in and gave her God's good news. But really, I just had to wonder if she'd have chosen to be that mother, if she'd had a choice between God's decision and another. Then Muhammad beseeched me to surrender to Allah at least 5 times a day. But luckily I remembered that my knees were still tender from all that kneeling to Jehovah, so that experiment is very soon over. Next came enlightened Buddha, who would have been gooder if only he could have told me who was the maker of all the sperm and ova that made all the mamas who made my mama to make me, which left only Brahma and all that talk of karma. But how do I achieve my karma when this whole world's future was looking less and less karma? So then that left just me, and as I looked at the human tree, I slowly began to see the one who'd made me. It was you, and you, and you, and you, and all the yous that have ever been and ever will be, once, long ago, when you had been we. That's when I saw the God's face serene within that pictured scene. For all that was and will be was me, and now that I saw you, I knew. This second piece is a bit different. It's called They Come of Age. It's about people, how we work. Some say that your brain is similar to a complex computer, but it is much more than that. Whereas a computer has the knowledge of itself, since the various microprocessors and silicon chips that were united to give it the ability to think about what you programmed it to think about, work together, it knew itself. The brain knows of itself and its history from before the time that its many cells and atoms came together to form its substance. It has a self-awareness that transcends not only the history of its own multifarious parts, it also transcends the personal history of you, the person it is working for, and it remembers everything. It remembers the you from yesterday, the week before, the month before, the year before, and the years before that. Back to the first instant of your birth. Then it remembers back to when you were spermatozoa and over. It goes back even further to when you were chromosome streets, and when you were electrons and atoms. Back to when you were quark, strangeness and charm, and back to when you were superstrings. Even then it does not stop remembering, for it remembers you right back through all the evolutionary forms you have been. Back to when you were Neanderthal, back to when you were the dinosaurs, back to when you were fish in the sea waiting to discover dry land, and back to when you were minute protozoa, back to when you were amino acids, waiting for ultraviolet light to make you alive. It had all that knowing, and it has all the things, all those things to remember. Back to when you were dust, space dust, and all that stuff floating through seamless space. I want to go, I want to stay, I want to dark, I want to light, I want to day, I want to night, I want to woman, I want to man, I want to plus, I want to minus, I want to big, I want to little, I want to all, I want to nothing. Locked in the brain is the memory of everything from the moment Maker knew that it existed, to the point when it fractured its consciousness into countless fragments, and then united these fragments into countless new forms of consciousness that had no memory of what they had once been. From superstrings to atoms, to molecules, to genes, to cells, and from me to you. It knows all this, and on the basis of a refined probability theory, it works out what you will do next. Be it seemingly rational, like blowing your nose because it's running with mucus, or seemingly irrational, like raping and murdering a woman because you're a man frustrated in every way and feeling powerless. It knows the you that you do not remember, because that's its job. It's your consciousness, your self-consciousness, subconsciousness, and autonomic consciousness. And all these combine to form your mind. Just while you're listening to me, it's so clever, it feels so natural. It's truly value-free and non-judgmental of your actions. There is ultimately no blame, because unlike the gods of Christianity, Judaism, Hindi, and Islam, it understands us and why we do the things we do. For each brain is our personal bit of God, and it is aware of itself, and it too has self-consciousness, and it can feel regret, joy, and elation just as we do. But it has a purposeful job to do that is greater than that of the job it does for you, the individual it services with thought. It is working out the species, it's working out the planet, it's working out the solar system, it's working out the whole universe. Every bit of it is busy working out every bit of everything else, while they are all combining to make up your thoughts. All those cells and their genetic makeup, all those enzymes and chemicals are busy on their own level of existence, working out their existence, while they're doing their day and night job of thinking for you. I wonder if they argue. You see, all the time everything is thinking what made it up, and about the relative autonomy that they seem to have in their own actions. They're also thinking about what made them. For it was Maker that made up the rules, and these are the guidelines that everything works under. And within these boundaries, the closer to Homo sapien you are on the evolutionary ladder, the greater is your relative autonomy. What's relative autonomy? It's your ability to decide what you will do next, independently of the constraining influence of any force outside your own will. It's choice, it's free will. Maker gives things so much of this property depending on what they are. Everything has its own measure of this commodity, and ours as a species is the most great and most important, because we have a special job to do. We have to help Maker work out what, why, and how everything is, and why and how it all came into existence in the first place. That is our unique purpose, and that is what Maker and every evolutionary process that made us up has made us special for. Because Maker doesn't know the full story behind its own coming into existence. That sounds like a heresy, to say God doesn't know what made God. But how could it? Think about it. However, there might be an explanation that this depends on your accepting my argument, that it was because I existed, that it existed. Doesn't that sound egotistical? You then have to ask yourself the question, who made me to be such a human that could analyze the whole universe and analyze the thing that is God in that universe and what its motivating forces might be? The immediate answer that comes into my brain is that you all made me. Everyone and everything that ever lived, thought, made me up to think the way I think. And ask the question, why all this pain? Why all this pain in life? Could this be what Roman Catholics are trying to express when they talk of original sin? It could be viewed in that way, but then why call it original sin? Why not call it original virtue? Because if it never happened, nothing would have existed. You might have noticed that earlier I said everything has its own measure of relative autonomy and not every living thing. Because many people claim that some of the things that I've said and mentioned don't actually live. So how can they have autonomy? How can they think? But then how can they make you up to think if they're dead? You can't live on the basis of things that are dead that make you up. So what's going on? Ask yourself that question. Then ask me, I'll tell you.
That was, can everybody up the back hear all right? It's good. See, the trouble is, I notice this myself, but sometimes when you're not getting the right kind of feedback, you start to hit the microphone quite hard, like you say. I was talking to this bloke and he said, "Shut up!" And it's not nice, because you don't have to shout too much. I should tell any of the other acts that I should learn by my own mistakes. All it does is alienate the audience. You just have to say, and he said, "Shut up!" So you know what I mean? When somebody starts getting that heavy angst out on the microphone, I feel a bit alienated as well, and you wonder why they're giving the microphone such a bad time. I'm possibly the most guilty of that. I'd like to welcome you to With Intent. We haven't actually started yet. The first 4 acts you saw were not exactly open spots, I don't like that term. They all arrived at 7 o'clock and they're here at no extra expense to your good selves. If you want to talk to them, we may well book some of them. Do you think we should book the last act?
Running around.
What do you reckon? Well, good response. The act before that?
I don't know.
I like a really good response. It's really hard to get a response out of this audience. I mean, my own background is comedy, so I'm used to laugh. There's someone talking, someone having a really it's Roger. It's the Devil's Chauffeur. I could have guessed. He's on in 2 weeks. I can't believe this. So I'll never turn your back on the audience. With Intent, I'm going to start with the first act tonight, not the first act. One of my favourite saxophone players. Oh, by the way, has anybody here come especially from Southend or Manchester to see the Lost Puppies? Anybody? I mean, I'm not going to say anything to you. Say yes. No one. No one here has come here especially to see the Lost Puppies, which is fine because they're not here tonight. So nobody can come up to me at the bar and say, "Excuse me, I just paid £2. I thought the Lost Puppies were on." And it does sometimes happen, but now we've got that straight. I'm not going to give you your money back if you came to see the Lost Puppies because they're not here. They've been I'm not going to go into this, but they've been replaced by the world's finest soprano saxophone player. I'm not alone in that opinion. I give you the one and only, the incredible Mr. Coxhill. Yeah, Coxhill. It's low up there anywhere.
Don't hear me.
Oh, this is unbelievable. I don't know about this. I used to get involved in ultra dramatics. And one time I wrote a part in for a wanker. I was running a little role. This geezer wasn't worth a wank, but I wanted to help him out. English wasn't his first language. He desperately wanted to be an actor. So I wrote a special part in for him. And when his big chance came, he was having a fucking shit. Can you imagine it? So I thought, well, I'm not having this. I told the audience, I said, I've written a special part for this man. I'm not going to fuck it up now and I'm going to ruin this great author's work. I enhanced Joe Alton's work. Where is the man? Where is the man? Give him his fucking cue. He's having a fucking shit. So I don't mind improvising. I'm only too happy to improvise. Do I hear a saxophone? All right, don't worry about it. There's no problem. No problem. Fortunately, no problem. I hear a saxophone. There is a saxophone. There we are. Just remember to take him off back today. There he is, one and only Mr. Coxhill.
This should take about 10 minutes. Now, please give a nice warm round of applause for the next act, who is Paul Roundhill. I mean, I'm no good at these things. You can't expect everything. The next act is Carolyn Cassady, our special guest. Carolyn Cassady, yes. Yeah, Carolyn Cassady.
Hello. I hope most of you have heard of Jack Kerouac and a book he wrote called On the Road. Otherwise you'll be lost. Because not being a poet, I have to tell you a story, or I'll read you one from my book, Off the Road, which is what was happening from my perspective during the events Jack fictionalized in On the Road. Now, Jack had been living in our home in San Francisco. This is in 1952-3, and writing in our loft what he called Visions of Neil. It got to be divided into Visions of Cody and Visions of Neil. I mean, On the Road. It was first Visions of Neil, then it became Visions of Cody and On the Road. And he'd been there, I guess, about 3 months this time. And we had begun rather intense romance. The story begins after Neil and I decided to drive to Nashville, Tennessee, and visit my parents because they'd never seen the grandchildren. Most of the chapters are a letter from Jack, so we'll really hear his voice before the alcohol took over, when he was in his prime and still expectant to be a literary great rather than the notorious father of the hippies, which started his prolonged suicide by alcohol. Also in here is the first reaction that Allen Ginsberg had after reading the manuscript of On the Road. I'm sure Allen would like this letter burned. Anyway, Jack rode with us. We had this Plymouth Woody station wagon, took out the seats, put the food and the clothing all around it, and in the back was the youngest child, the son, John, Jack, Allen Ginsberg Cassady. His crib mattress was in the back with him, and then Jack and I were sitting behind the front seat, facing each other, thigh to thigh, as it were. So the atmosphere was rather charged. Neil, of course, was at the wheel, and the two little girls in the front seat with him. So I'll skip all the middle. We took him as far as Nogales, and we parked outside this fence on the border, which was a steel wire mesh fence. And we left the kids in the car, and we walked inside. There wasn't a town or a city. It was just sort of a grove and a little sort of trucker's cafe there. And so we were going to all say goodbye, and the coffee machine was broken, so we all had a insipid soft drink and couldn't think of anything to say. And so then we walked back to the car, and Jack stood at the gate, and we all waved goodbye, because, this was farewell for I didn't know how long before I was going to see him again. So, here we go. This is didn't do that.
You're a heavy metal rocker. You've got to fix that.
Oh, I see. All right, here we go. So, okay, we went to Tennessee and we came back. We hadn't heard from Jack directly since we'd left him in Nogales, and I wondered if he was feeling remorse or if he was angry for some reason. The first week of June, however, we received a long, reassuring letter. Look, Dear Carolyn, I was very glad to see that letter you wrote Alan. He sent it for me to see. I had no idea my mail hadn't reached you. One letter to Tennessee, one to Frisco later. And no idea, too, you and Neil had stopped agreeing on an agree basis. And what? Once more wrangling in the Jersey house. Take it easy, don't fight. Latest word from headquarters of the Orinoco over here is you can't find work in Mexico, but you sure can live in Mexico cheap. So I say, Neil, if you want to live in Mexico, all you got to do is work about 4 months on railroad per year. Everything here incredibly cheap, more than I thought. Bill, that's Bill Burroughs, lives expensively in American neighborhood. You can live for nothing in Mexican neighborhoods in the city, swanky hotels on mud streets at $8 a month and so on. But also entire beautiful stone houses with gardens, fireplaces, vistas at $27 American a month. And in the country, outside town, same thing for less. And stick huts for nothing, I guess. Food is low. I buy 2 1/4 pounds of filet mignon for 11 pesos or $1.35 American. This is therefore filet mignon, 16 cents a pound. But enough of that. You can see, and listen, Carolyn, you could have come through with a car that morning, no charge, and we could have driven 50 miles around or anything at no charge, and bought stuff, and seen a fiesta in the afternoon in the gay little city of Nogales. You have no idea what it is 10 feet beyond that steel fence. In your letter to Alan, how could I have enough of the Cassady clan, including the children, hey? I'm glad to hear that Neil has a sustained interest in me. The bastard postures the other way. So naturally, of course, he'll rise again, and is risen now. But as Alan said in a recent letter to me, who knows what personal disgust and rocky glare lies beneath Neil's seeming silence. After all that's happened, he now has the right to sink into a fit of disgust, which I wish I could do. It would take the silliness out of me. I get it on peyote, by the way, disgust. I just ate it twice more times here with the hipsters of Mexico City, and Bill too. I'm not going to take it anymore, definitely toxic on the eyes and stomach. Neil is a successful provider because he knows how to work. Alan and I never learned tile recapping or braking or any of those difficult or special trades, or even tire changing. I know that Neil will miss while in Mexico working, and while working in U.S. will miss Mexico, if that's what you're going to do. It can be done, I think. It would solve problems, especially if you take care and find yourself an ideal little house here in Mexico with garden and yard for Kathy and Jamie, and especially Johnny. Guaranteed low rents available, no higher than $30 or more like $20. And if you want to make it in Ajijic or Oaxaca or Taxco artist colonies, definitely even less, $15 sometimes, $10 a month rent for a house. This will solve the problems of freedom to move around and leap in and out of doors and get high and dig not only Mexico, but the life of families in the sun and yards and kicks all over. And with a car, how could you miss the kicks, the endless kicks of Mexico? The picnics in Chapultepec Park when the Indians, the drives to the floating gardens of Xochimilco. Don't believe I spelled that right, W.C. Fields. Now listen, Carolyn, I have to go to sea to buy a trailer for my mother to put in my sister's backyard. This is confidential on account of Joan, that was his wife. My stuff will be there, my home headquarters in the world. But if you and Neil, and I'll probably see you soon, really plan to make it Mexico, then I'll be in on it with you. And we'll have some sea money and more peace back home. We can all live down here in a house. Sometimes I'll be either at sea or staying at home in Carolina or visiting Bill in Ecuador. Neil sometimes working in California 4 months and the other 8 writing the first third in his house in Mexico with imminent advance. Sounds logical and all right to me. Don't want to force anybody. Bill Burrow says he's going to found his farm in an Ecuadorian high jungle river not far from the coast and invite hipster colony of anybody hip come down and found an island in becoming Soviet and totalitarian invasions of the world. So we'll also have a back way out. As for discussing the emotional complications of the matter, I am forget. I feel really like Neil, incapable of dealing with such big abstract problems of love and mystery, or at least I feel incapable. And I just have to digress to say these 2 men are the only ones I've ever known who could love without preference. They loved everybody equally, sort of. You know, they really were New Age fellows that were so compassionate and so loving to everyone. So they didn't have the kind of possessive romances and stuff that most of us used to. They had enough of it, so they felt jealousy, but it didn't last very long. It was, off to someone else. So they both always told me about their other women. It took me a long time to realize this, but I now know that we all have to get there eventually. But they were certainly amazing examples of this. So here he is, not wanting to face this discussion. I probably had said something that made him think I wanted a commitment or something, Anyway, I'll tell you, I've always been convinced life is a spook. Many's the time I wanted to hold your hand or kiss you, merely as acknowledgement that we were all in the car heading for the world unknown. What? But felt the jealousy kick just as much as Neil, and so played up to it and didn't do what I wanted. This is the fault with accepting balloons of abstract possibility become real fact, with banner-line headlines we put across our mind, confusing the level of reality with the level of imagination, myth, or possibility, or value. Jealousy is a hassle over value, which is an abstract idea. I don't think Neil was jealous. He just didn't know what we expected him to do, and we didn't either. I personally feel quite calm about the whole thing, except for qualms about how you feel, both of you. Also, most cruelly, I am at your beck and call to come and go. In other words, I accept loss and death, and if you offer me some of your life, I'm very grateful, but I know that nothing will come of it, of life, but death. So it really makes no difference to any of us what happens now and soon. Eternity is the only thing on my mind permanently, and you are a part of it. One good thing about Mexico, you can just get high and dig eternity every day. Right, Sue? Neil, right, also, and or Jack. P.S. You remember Reed, the bass player in Frisco, with a Mephistophelian goatee and great driving bass style. Neil sold us through that Johnny with Umbrella Fillmore night. We waited with Robert's pool hall connected rig, took a cut of our shit. I saw him blow Bass Club 299 and elsewhere. Ah, well, he came to Mexico City, played bass with local Mexican bopman and one American baritone sax called Hood, and piazzed up and went back to Frisco and got wife and her car from Bond, not real wife, and came back down permanent and wants to open hip bop joint. And who does he connect with for his heavy habits? But Bill, and he's been around every day. House is mad, full of young fishermen, New Orleans blonde hipsters with crazy little wives, and one blonde kid from Frisco who just got into a horrible life and death fight with Mexicans in wild bar roads. Americans started it. Almost got killed, but laughs and blasts and a lot of rockin' pools down here, okay, but I like my Mexico with just a simple, plain, single American friend, Bill, and I hope someday you. And cut along in my highs and mystic riding and visit $3, 3 peso horrors of Organo Street. Man, it outdoes them all on me. But I've got to break the monotony of the continual high ecstasy of Mexico. I mean pot. and coolness of surroundings, which makes kicks guiltless and work a pleasure. Work, like, say, shopping. You know how you and I went shopping for groceries in Frisco. Then picture you and me cutting in station wagon high to a Mexican market for our groceries. The hassles and mad scenes, and in Mexico nobody hurries. There's absolutely no count left, no reason to rush, no more memory of. Just a lot of Indians and a big, huge 3 million encampment being adventurous, weird, and bohemian in the eternal soft weather outdoors, with stone and wood and flower and fruits and juices. Long, dark hair of sleek Indian of Mexico, look out. When the moon shines and I eat peyote and blast and drink pure pulque from an urn, I can see the United States glimmering on the plain in South America the other way. I got owl eyes in the hoot, ooh, do, you too. And oh, incidentally, to conclude this massive epistle, I have already written a third of Dr. Sachs' 45,000 words in this past month in Mexico. In case I catch on like wildfire in New York with On the Road, I get another masterpiece ready for the press. I'm leaving here late in June, bound for sea job anywhere, maybe New Orleans. I'll send Newell forwarding C address and also leave it with Bill, who himself, poor fellow, will soon have to have forwarding address to the South. He's losing his bail money to crooked lawyers, but it's free, is free, and will be going to Panama soon to establish a home for himself and Willie. Maybe Ecuador if he sees fit. I love you both and hope I don't bore you with my long talks. Forward my mail, kiss the grail. There's more here. Wait. No, sorry. You got it. Wait. Do I hear that? Wait, we lost it. Where did it? Oh yeah. All right. Please write. Let me know what it was like in Tennessee and your plans for San Jose and the children and so forth. Well, luck, I'll be seeing you soon up an MCS ship. I'll ring the doorbell with dry martini mix and Shakespeare. Isn't it grand, as Henri Bou would say? Uncle Jack. He added a note to Neil and tidied up any possible loose ends to various relationships, reiterating their brotherhood, that nothing had changed between them, they were well-nigh perfect friends, and nothing could affect our closeness and peace. His earlier letter finally caught up with us. In it, he wrote that he had finished typing On the Road, and on Bill's advice made Alan my agent. I suppose Alan may take it seriously and really go to work. When Alan received the manuscript of On the Road, he wrote us, Jack's book arrived and it's a holy mess. It's great, all right, but he did everything he could to F it up with a lot of meaningless bullshit, I think. Page after page of surrealistic free association that doesn't make sense to anybody. I don't think it could be published anywhere in its present state. I know this is an awful hang-up for everyone concerned. He must be tired too, and that's how it stands, I think. Your tape conversations were good reading, so I could hear what was going on there. But he put it in entire and seemingly unified, so it just skips back and forth and touches on things momentarily and refers to events nowhere else in the book, and finally it appears to objectify so diffuse and disorganized, which it is on purpose, that it just doesn't make. Jack knows this too, I'll bet. Why is he tempting rejection and fate? Spoiled child like all of us, maybe, but goddammit, it ain't right to take on so paranoid, just a challenge and see how far you can go. When there's so much to say and live and do now, how hard it is, albeit. Jack is an ignorant and I'll bow down to him, but he done messed up his writing, money-wise and writing-wise. He was not experimenting and exploring in new deep form. He was purposely just screwing around as if anything he did, no matter what he did, was okay, no bones attached. not purposely, I guess, just drug out and driven to it and in a hole. I don't know what he'll say when I say this to him. He comes back to New York this week or next, I think, and how he'll make out with all this shit to shovel around. I don't know. I'll try to help, but I feel so evil when I not agree in blindness. Well, shit on this. You got the point. And the book, I'm told by Compendium, not a day goes by they don't sell at least one copy of On the Road, and it's been in print in various forms since 1957. But this is Alan's first impression. Before learning of Alan's judgment, Jack was feeling good. He wrote that he'd finished Dr. Sachs, a whole tight novel right here at Bill's. He was ready to leave Mexico and travel to his mother's and thence to New York for a ship. And ended his letter with, I sure wish I was with you right now, buddy, sharing a last glass of Tokay, and with that fine blind Kerouac Pascal serving up hot pizza in the pie plate. God damn, I miss you. Tears just come to my eyes. I'll see you soon in Frisco's port, let's pray. He couldn't have heard Alan's reaction to his book at that point, but his anger toward publishers was fierce. I'm really getting effed again by the publishing business. They just won't publish me anymore. They're afraid of every chapter I write, it seems. I'll pay them back someday. Carolyn, your life has been impossible with me. I'm very unlucky and doomed to be robbed by all the cheap literateurs of my time. The next word we got from Jack arrived 2 weeks later, a mysterious and enigmatic note. Had he heard of Alan's criticism? It sounded like a last farewell. Just to let you know, I'm leaving Mexico City and going to live right and till my special soils in a small shack type made of adobe bricks in the country not far from here, in a valley, for practically and eventually nothing. Don't know for how long, will be my headquarters. Won't write for a long time because want to sink into natural oblivion with myself, dog, Indians, beautiful and sad Indians. Let my mail dust under the floorboard. See you on some spectral New Year's Eve. Love and dumb kisses. P.S. Eventually I want to go to Ecuador where the mangoes, orchids, and wives go wild. No want, no phony hassles, no anger and all that kind of shit ad infinitum. Any important messages from me, send to Alan, who will undoubtedly relay them telepathically and visit me on a burro. Written along the side was kisses to you and the children, right that first third, love see sentimentally, old Zach. Neil and I didn't know what to make of it. Oh, he'll come out of it, Neil sighed. He's just paranoid again, misunderstood. Old Zag will sit in his mud hut and have himself a regular orgy with Miss Green, the bastard. Why doesn't he send me some? Fat! He strode to the window and stood gazing out. Not at our backyard, I could tell, but at a Mexican valley, warmed by a lazy sun, where there were no bills, no pressures, just mangoes and Miss Green.
My name's André Stitt, I'm from Belfast. Street cred. I really do need a lot of quiet for these poems. because I'm very tired, because I've been up from 6 this morning working on the fucking building sites, because that's what I do for a living. This has got something to do with paranoia. Every day you walk down the street, there's someone cuts your throat. Insects devour us, anticipation waits for mystery, motivation. I said insects devour us, anticipation waits for mystery, motivation. Frustrated by anger, the lights will lead our house down. Frustrated by anger, the lights will lead our house down. So make sure you got bread on the table. Make sure you got bread on the table. Send this, first person calling. Send this, first person calling. Thank you.
Yeah.
A few plugs. I got a CD art. Comes out of a small label in the United States. It's on American import. It's available from Compendium Books. I got some copies with me. You can get for a tenner, which is a real cut down price, because they slap a lot of stuff on top of it, like tacks and stuff like that. So you can get this. Comes in a beautiful fold-out sleeve with a book and everything. So that's the plug. This is called Too Late for Fear, and it's about working life. It's about coming home, being really messed up, drinking too much, getting up in the morning, hanging off scaffolding, puking, trying to get that first coffee down, trying to put a little nip in it to keep going. This is Too Late for Fear. At your core of one more night, back from the sights, slamming the door, angry at your own confusion, everything designed to make you feel numb, irresponsible. Fist to the wall, and you can't hear 20 electric shocks that swell to the kill, but all evading clarity of fear. And it's trust, the trust of burning a conversation at a bus stop, or a tube station, or the fear, relinquishing your severe desire, pulling on her plasticine breasts, taking her from the rear, and this fear begets yet more fear. Running on empty, a steel tub of cold lard, exposed from the brain to the gut, hanging in rivulets of steam, slightly knifing away the clarity of trust. Thanks. Want to do a little bit? This next one's about my younger brother, who is autistic and is now consigned to a lifetime in a mental institution. This is kind of like a vision of Hemingway. It's called But Not Like Moses. He lived out there somewhere, out in the reeds. Yes, by the wagon. I think that's where they found him. He saw them through stalks, little shafts, splitting time like prison bars. He saw them. Leaving his fingernails peering through thatch, as if hypnotized, or scrutinizing every blade woven in largacto, and smoking 20 fags in a single go, until they took him back to where the tall bulrushes had been. But there was only concrete and tarmac and bridges, and the river was brown, and it frothed, and it stank, and they left him there upon the bank, where it was dark, where no one could see, and they hoped he would remain there, a memory to their charity, sectioned into the half-light. called Ye Bobbin Ye. Ye Bobbin Ye. Didn't feel much like moving my kneecaps that morning, so I hit the special brew instead and felt God in all his humor. Through the wide, conspicuous flowering lids and brushes upstairs, there are no considerations for needing a shave. Ah, what a winter shelter. Whisperless, caring even less of kisses and mediocre melodrama. Hanging over with a baggage of dilemma, impure, scuffed, dumped in cotton wool, with anything at hand and sine qua non. A lot of people just go through life bad, I guess, and then they come to terms with bad-light emotions. But here this morning, there's no muscles that cleanse the mess to determine the pace. It's natural to move. Why distort it? For sure the earth is flat, and me here I feel it spin, and I feel the freedom of time, and me here I spin too, and an easy pace in a slum, and an easy pace in a slum, and an easy pace in a slum! This is called outsider trading. Basically, it's something to do with coming to terms with messing other people about, messing women about whenever you really don't know any difference and no one's told you any different. Kind of a bit like growing up in Belfast, really. I'm not your starlight. I just continue to fight, imprisoned in this manhood, begot from birth and held in check, held within these bones, feeling static dread each day, the pouncing of betrayal and death, all confused in the fantasies of the ownership of these women, their bodies, their insides, teaching me, clamped open, bold, focused, vital, necessary, and most of all, alive. And here I am, folding inside, angry at the shouting, at the punching of men, oftentimes wishing I were born a woman. This is called Jackhammer at the Intersection. And it's, I do a lot of touring in the United States doing what's loosely called performance art, visually live art-based stuff. And this is something to do with coming down in LA, a very rancid and meticulous city to live in. Yeah? Okay. Jackhammer at the intersection. Smelling the thought because it was easy, unable to think straight anymore with anyone, weeping and windswept, hanging between palms, black morning from all the greyhound windows of America. She originally came from Laguna, hyper and slender, with girl-like breasts, and I cupped and I toured these places, her hair covering my anxious 3-day growth, sick on beer and T-bird, and I pulled muscles and cut feet. Totally used up, and it was all going to be over so very fast. Coming down, and I stumbled on flippant errors. There was a reality check, the jackhammer passion. The damn cats were laughing, and I stirred mindlessly as I was trying to kick the endless addiction to life seemed to crack terror. Belonging nowhere, kicking volume and exhaustion, led astray through towering dazes, someplace in LA, with my dick burnt black, blue, and red. You're very appreciative. Great, thank you. I must say that I am quite grateful to be here tonight and to be able to read some of these, because it's something that I don't get a chance to do. And it kind of puts you into a situation, a very, very kind of vulnerable situation. And it's quite difficult, actually. It's actually quite difficult. This has got to do with the Gulf War, I might call it that. You know, sort of troubles, you know, the way that Belfast has got troubles. They don't call it a war, it's got troubles. And it's called Scuds, Tomahawks, and Patriots. The wayleading crowds to far get dragged down, drugged and dusted, caught within the chloroform vacant receptacle. Pride cool in the January airless breeze, the vessel computes and springs apart with tweezers. On the evening news, the cannibals gorge on the glorified intestines, being clinical, urbane. You lift, drain the tumbler, pull back the chair, squeeze them guts, catching the acid that's gripping your core, imagining a lost oasis like in a Hollywood movie. Older now, skin shellac hardened, legs broken chrome, since always, since ever, as far back as you can remember, there's always been a war on. Bill Light Relief, this is one I just wrote. This is called Fish. Fish. It's actually a lot more serious than I make it out. Actually, it's when you find one of your best friends ODing in the bath. So that's basically what it's about. Fish. Big fish. Yeah, fish. Think and laugh. Your cat is dead. My cat is dead. My best friend dead. It's drunk, fat in the bath. Fish. Big fish. Big fucking fish. The children never cry for them. They don't know. They cry for the cats. Flat dead upon the street. They look them in the eyes. Fish. Big fish. Yeah, big fucking fish. For all the meaning that life imparts, I might as well be a whaler. Our mother is dead. We never saw her laugh, never saw her blink, or saw her darker side, except through forced imagination. Yeah, fish. Big fish. Big fucking fish. For all the meaning that life imparts, I might as well be a whaler. In the big oceans how they roam, through our wasted imagination. The dead line up for sympathy, yet I need to see them freshly bleed. Big, 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 big fish, fresh dead upon my plate.